It's Wednesday night, and we're live from Oakdale, Washington, in the Educated Touch Studio. Welcome to Ethics Outside the Box, with your host, Nathan Nordstrom. Special guests include
Heath and Nicole Reed.
And you. Here he is, Nathan Nordstrom.
Whoa, that was a big explosion. I apologize for the excessive noise. Welcome to this week's wonderful adventure called Ethics Outside of the Box, where we talk about massage therapy, ethics, and the joys that we have by being able to improve ourselves, both ethically, standards, morals, boundaries. We can really put all that together. But today we're actually going to be talking with two wonderful people that I have seen in advertising, in Facebook, in YouTube. I've seen you guys all over the place, but this is Heath and Nicole Reed. Welcome, guys. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
We're excited to play.
This is my opportunity to just smile and laugh with people and spend an hour doing it with something that we both love. And that's kind of this whole game. So, at any time, if I get too excited, just kind of do this, and it'll calm me down a little bit.
I doubt you'll ever see us ask you to go small.
No, you'll never be.
Go big or go home. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
We love to play. The bigger the game, the better.
Bring your muchness.
Exactly. All right. So before we go too far, I want to find out what's going on with you guys. Where are you guys at? What's practice look like? What does business? What does CEs? What's going on with you guys business-wise?
Sure. Would you like to talk?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So Nicole and I have been team teaching now about 20 years together, massage therapy and body work, of course, but we're also big enthusiasts of movement therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot with yoga therapy, medical qigong, Feldenkrais, movement with awareness, and applying that both to the table, but also taking what we're up to with the table and applying all that into the world at large. So if you were going to talk about the tripod upon what we're up to, it'd be body work, movement therapy, and conscious communication. So we're wondering about how we can organize ourselves personally and professionally so that we can have greater impact with greater ease.
I love it. Conscious communication is a huge piece, especially when we're talking about ethics. So I don't think we're going to have a problem really connecting the importance of knowing what you're saying, having that, not only the verbal conscious communication, but the nonverbal conscious communication.
Absolutely.
The things that you're saying without saying them. That gets a lot of people into a lot of trouble, and it really saves a lot of people if they're actually conscious of what their nonverbal communication is saying. Oh, we're gonna have fun. This is all right. So just so that I can get back to knowing where we're all at and reminding people what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be getting to the places that we are, I always want to go back to the YouTube or the internet page and go to the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Body Workers, which is right here. So anybody who's wondering about the Code of Ethics and Standard of Practice for massage therapy, you can always go to ncbtmb.org. You scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, and there is a About Us section. And under the About Us section, it says Code of Ethics, and then goes through and policies and who the board is and all of that. And then it goes down to Standards of Practice. Now, we've been spending the entire year so far. We're now into November, and I'm excited to be here. We've got 2 more months, and we will get through Standard 5 and 6 in those 2 months.
Woo-hoo!
But I really wanted to point out that we're at Standard 5, and Standard 5 is one of those standards that really was pushed into the consciousness of National Certified Massage Therapist or Board Certified Massage Therapist, because in many states and for a while, NCB's requirements said you have to have training in ethics specifically on Standard 5. And so roles and boundaries are a really important piece, and we've seen them go wrong and we've seen them go right so many times. So just wanted to kind of go over this and really make sure that we address these pretty effectively. Because without kind of understanding what our roles and boundaries are and how they get crossed, a lot of times we can get into more trouble. So Standard 5A is recognize his or her personal limitations and practice only within these limitations. Okay, so standard B or 5B is recognize his or her influential position with the client and not expose the relationship for personal or other gain.
Mm-hmm.
And I said expose when I meant exploit.
Mm-hmm.
Exploiting is a huge piece, and there's a lot to it. Is there anything, Keith and Nicole, that sticks out to you that you kind of go, that's a real concern for you, or that's something that you see the profession really needing help with?
There's several things
that stand out. Yes.
Yeah.
And when was your expose miswording? But I think it's in line and congruent with what's going on right now in the current events with the Me Too movement, with Harry Weinstein and everything else. Harvey Weinstein.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Bill Cosby, allegations against Supreme Court nominees. But I think there, incidences of impropriety and particularly sexual exploitation, not only on, the civil level, but the criminal level. As I speak to spa owners and clinic owners around the country, everybody has seen an uptick in the amount of disclosures about this. And Jake wants to put his 2 cents in from time to time too.
Like, not into it.
It's like, no
exposure.
Don't do it.
And you and Nicole and I, Nathan, were talking a few moments ago about how conscious communication is not only something that happens verbally, but non-verbally. Are we being impeccable with our draping?
Yeah, are we integral from the inside out, from beginning all the way to the end of our sessions? Yeah, so this is a really big hot topic for us right now, and I think it's reflective in our culture, and it's also one of our clients' biggest fears. One of our clients' biggest fears.
Number one biggest fear
is
being exposed.
So how are we doing that? How are we not doing that? Preventing that? Yeah.
So I just went out to where did I just come home from? Wherever I was at. I just did a training at a spa, and we were doing draping. And in the draping protocols that the spa has, there's specific setup. Here's how you do it. Here's how you make sure. And I was really intrigued because the massage therapist was saying, okay, so we're going to have you roll over now. And they went up to the shoulders, so the sheet and the towel on the shoulders, and turned their head and lifted up.
Yeah.
And exposed them to the wall.
Right.
Yeah.
But exposed them to the wall.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, no, hold on. Let's stop.
Yes.
Let's have you put that down. And they put it down. They're like, well, why? And I said, well, you may have learned that in massage school, and that may have been okay in massage school. But if you didn't know what to expect in a massage treatment, and someone did that and said, okay, now roll over, you would feel a little self-conscious about what is it that's covered. And so then I went through the policy and said, okay, we make sure that you come down to the shoulder and make sure that there's some draping down. So it's a true tent-based drape where there's closure on both ends. So you don't get this big gash of air that runs.
No draft.
No draft. Drafting is bad. And so grabbing the shoulder and grabbing at just mid-thigh and lifting, and then having them roll over and scoot down on the table.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that really gets me about communication, is that it's not just what you're putting out there, but it's thinking about what the client is experiencing and pulling it back and saying, wait a second, I don't want them to experience that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Client perception is everything. So what are the perceptions we're creating from the moment we say hello, how we walk them into the room, how we talk about how we're getting on the table, what is our general agreement for our session today, what is our focus, what are our goals, all that, and then how do I maintain that and sustain those throughout my session, with draping being a big part of that, and then also actually addressing their needs in a way that they feel met. Yes, and then keep going all the way to the end, how you walk them back out.
How you lie and continue the whole arc of communication.
Are we, Do we make unnecessary contact with our client all the way to the room?
Yeah,
Are we guiding them through the low back, or holding their hand, or draping a shoulder?
It's inappropriate to make unnecessary physical contact with our clients, even though it might seem totally innocuous.
Do I give a hug even though they're not coming in for one?
Yeah. So
They're not paying for hugs, are they? No.
Not in my definition of therapeutic relationship.
Well, not the therapy that we practice.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And I was really intrigued when I heard about a massage therapist who gave a full body massage, and at the end of the session, as he was walking the client out, he patted her on the back of the shoulder.
Yeah.
And as she was leaving, she then started freaking out, getting a little panic attack and being concerned. And later he found out that when she had been abused as a child, and before the abuse happened, the abuser would pat her on the shoulder.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a conscious thing that this client was aware of or thought about. But
Sure.
As she got that trigger, she realized this is an uncomfortable situation. And it then relied directly on the therapist having a action that caused a response.
Mm-hmm.
Massage therapists love causing responses.
Mm-hmm.
We love causing positive responses where people can, I'm in a safe place, instead of, oh no, I'm being touched. I'm uncomfortable in this situation.
Yeah.
And always, I tell people routinely that a first-time client, you need to be very leery of and conscious of, and really exploit yourself so much that you give enough information, almost too much information, so that they don't have an opportunity to feel uncomfortable. You know what?
Yeah.
Overspend time making sure that that first experience is through the moon, above and beyond anything that they've ever experienced. Because once you have that set, then you can come back, and when they come back the next time, you can say, hey, do you remember when we talked about, hey, are you comfortable with this? Hey, we did this. Did you like that? Would you like more of this? It then becomes clarification communication instead of creation of communication.
Right. You don't have to tread water or go backwards and reinvent the wheel.
Every client that I've ever seen, by the time they get to the third or fourth visit, they're like, no, come on, let's get through this. Come on, get me on the table.
Yeah. No,
Because they want that.
I agree. It's better to over communicate than miss out on an opportunity. To keep in mind, also, we're not just in the role of therapists for the session time. We're also helping be healthcare educators. We're helping educate our clients not only about massage therapy and what to expect and what you can be sure won't happen, but also to keep them in mind with what they're experiencing on the table, getting their feedback. Where are they with that? And, oh, this might be connected to what you're doing in your work or your lifestyle. So I think one deficit for a lot of us therapists who are oriented toward introspection, right? We spend most of our day in quiet, dark rooms, talking very little or to one person all day long. And I find that a lot of therapists sometimes don't communicate as much as they might, to really own that role of, I'm not just a healthcare provider, I'm not just a massage therapist, but I'm also a healthcare educator.
Well, and I love that. How do I own the space? How do I kind of own the room, own what's happening, and then stay in step with myself and with my clients? So am I practicing my best practices? Am I keeping myself in a way where I can experience my breath? I'm not hurting myself while I'm giving. I feel good. I'm energized by the time this is over. And at the same time, my client is also experiencing their own breath. They're feeling good at the same time. Mm-hmm. So how do I own the room, own the space from beginning to end? Yeah. I think we both have different ways that we do that. And I think we all have kind of different ways that we navigate and create the space for our clients so that everybody feels safe.
So yesterday I was lecturing on being present. And being in the moment at that point, whatever that point is, whenever that moment is, but especially when you're in the treatment room, because you can't, as you just said, own the space unless you're in the space.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Unless you are literally there and not thinking about shopping afterwards or how your car payment is or what your spouse is doing or anything else. If you're not there, you can't own that space.
Well, I think
that's the strength.
we get distracted. I mean, we're humans. We can't help it, right? We're going to get distracted. But how quickly can I bring myself back, right? I mean, how do I loop my awareness, loop my attention, constantly circulating my attention and becoming aware? Am I out or am I in? Am I paying attention to my client? And can I pay attention to myself? And this is a really big kind of practice for Heath and I, is that the therapeutic relationship isn't just about the client, but it's also my relationship with the client.
And with you.
Yeah. How am I including myself in this relationship?
How can I receive as much benefit from this session as my client does, if not more? And I think we've all had the experience where we came out of a session feeling better afterwards than before. And I are interested in how can we leverage our presence and our awareness in such a way that we continue to feel more energized and positive at the end of the day than in the beginning of the day.
Yeah, so learning what are our go-to presencing moves? What are those for us? So I know for me, it's my breath. I know like adjustments, a little bit of movement sometimes really helps. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm working on someone else's shoulder. What's my shoulder doing kind of thing. So those are easy presencing moves, and learning what those are for you can help navigate yourself through a session so that you can be there as much as you want to be. or the whole time.
I love that, because the part of your presence really goes to not only being there, but then after you're really striving to hold that presence, it changes the way you communicate.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
And it changes the manipulation communication. It reduces that need to feel guilty about, oh, maybe I missed something. Oh, no, now I have to say something. But it makes it so that when you're talking about your professional and personal limitations, that you can talk about it in a positive way instead of, oh, well, I just can't do that. That's not in my scope of practice.
Sure.
Wait, how can you put that in a positive? You know what? I understand there are other people who can do that. That's not something I've been trained to do. I would really love to see you find someone who can do that, and I can help you look for that person.
Yeah, exactly.
Two different forms of communication about the exact same topic.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And practicing within your own personal limitations. I know when I go state to state and I look at what the different education requirements are and limitations for different states and scopes and that kind of stuff, I see that the scope of practice of massage therapists across the nation is not the same.
Yes.
Right.
And that's hard. That's hard when I've got 4 state licenses, so I practice all over and I know the different scopes that I'm in. But then I also do research on other scopes of practice because I work for a company that has spas in all the states. So being able to hold true to that and recognize the limitations, I put that directly on every massage therapist who holds a license.
Absolutely.
To know what their personal limitations are and be able to hold the presence in the room so that they can then talk about their benefits, their challenges. I know in one state, they can't do stretching.
Right.
And first of all, that scared me. That is such a needed thing in life. It's such a mandatory piece. How can that not be in your scope of practice? And then I watched what the massage therapists were doing, and it wasn't defined as stretching. It was elongating with a nice effleurage stroke.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Positional effleurage definitely changes that. But what were they actually doing? They were recognizing their personal limitations and practicing within those limitations specifically.
Exactly. Yeah. Go ahead. Did you have more?
No, go for it. Hit it.
Yeah. What came to mind was just like we don't diagnose or treat or prescribe, we can assess, address, and recommend. When we go to Thailand, there's an expression of colloquialism, same, but different. You go to, if you go to the restaurant, it might be a fruit shake or fruit smoothie. Same, but different. How do you do this Thai massage technique with your foot, but then this one with your knee? What's the difference? Oh, same.
Different.
How can we communicate in a way that we're being integral we're recognizing and honoring our local laws, statutes, standards of practice, but we're also able to provide that quality of attention. And I really love that you're underscoring presence. I don't know if you're aware of this, but our company's slogan is "Your presence is more important than your technique." And we're big believers that you can heal with your presence. And anybody who has had an experience where things didn't go their way, they're having a rough day, a rough time, you might be able to remember a time in your own life this happens, and someone you care about comes into the same room or space as you, and without a single word, you feel better. And this is one clear example of how we can heal with our presence. And I think the three of us are all big advocates of leading with presence, presencing yourself, not just to center in the beginning of your session or ground at the end.
No.
How do we presence and come back to ourselves, come back to the client over and over in ways that are refreshing?
See, and I kind of had a little picture as you were talking about that, because I know there've been times that I've been waiting for my massage, and the receptionist introduced me to the massage therapist that I was going to have, and simply their smile and their focus and their Zen personality makes you go,
Yeah.
They haven't touched you at all.
Right. Yeah.
But because they had taken that moment to kind of be centralized and be able to be in that point and in that presence, that's when you can do the healing of the emotional stuff that could be built up behind the physiological things that are going on in the body. If you don't first break down the borders of discomfort of the environment, it's going to be really hard to break down the borders of the discomfort of the physiological body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The body doesn't relax unless there's a mental state that says, oh, this is okay, I can let go.
Right. Yeah. We're not just creating safety physically, but also psychologically and emotionally and spiritually, and both for the client, but also for the therapist. And studies in psychology, sociology show that it only takes 3 seconds. It's actually 1 to 3 seconds. When you meet someone, you've already decided in your mind whether you like them or not, whether they're an ally or a foe. And so how we present ourselves and how we organize our body language, how we greet, what our eye contact is, what our initial handshake or whatever professional contact we make, those will all dictate the foundation upon which the relationship is going to be built.
To me, it's so important to make aware the profession about the boundaries which they keep. I teach a class on massage therapists and how to avoid sexual predators.
Mm-hmm.
And when I present this, I have to present both roles of what a sexual predator is. And I try and avoid the concept of sex too much, because that's not what massage therapy is about. But when we're talking about a predator, we're looking at really standard B when we're talking about the influence and position, and not exploit the relationship of personal others for your gain.
Exactly.
And that's what predators do, is they're create a relationship in their mind or not that is for their own sexual gain, for their own exploits, for their own mental joy, without any respect of the other person.
Yeah.
That's huge in a concern for me if we're looking at a massage therapist. But when we look at a client, how a massage therapist needs to be very blunt, direct, and straightforward in that presence, so that they can say, no, this is not what it's about. If you're looking for that, you're going to have to find someone else.
Exactly. And that's the therapist's responsibility. It's not the client's responsibility to speak up or call foul. As there's the power differential inherent in helping professionals, which, massage therapists, but doctors, dentists, when you a child and your parents tell you to trust the dentist, even though they're inflicting pain on you, you trust that helping professional, and inherently the client or patient in that power differential with the helping professional doesn't have informed consent to say no. It's fully and legally, criminally or civilly speaking, it's on the onus of the therapist to be sure nothing untoward happens in the session room, not just for the therapist. But if a client is coming on to us, it's our responsibility to shut it down. If a client suggests something that's inappropriate and we agree to it, it's our fault.
Yes.
Legally and civilly, and that's what the courts say regarding sexual exploitation. Your client wants to go out on a date with you, or they want to have something personal happen. It is your responsibility as a therapist to say this is inappropriate. This is not part of our therapeutic relationship.
I do not believe any state licensing board has ever accepted the excuse, well, but they asked me out.
Right now.
You lose your license.
There's not a single legal precedent. Yeah.
No, because it's your responsibility as the professional. It's your license. And by holding that responsibility, even if something bad happens, no matter what, in the room or outside of the room afterwards, you're the liable party. And that's why, I hate to say it, we have professional liability coverage as well.
Yeah.
Yes, you never want something to happen. But if it does, you have to make sure that you're safe. Even if it doesn't and there's a perception of it, doesn't matter. You still have to remain safe. Absolutely. You have to keep yourself strong. Go ahead.
Well, client perception is reality. So it's not, there's no objective reality. There's a he said, she said, if it comes to a civil or criminal, or just it comes to an incident report at your spa or resort. And the person who is guilty or is held, as you say, liable and responsible is the therapist. But I think there's also, we're assuming like, hey, they want, they're saying something explicitly sexual or direct. Yeah. But there's, I think, a lot of
subtle nuances,
hidden pitfalls, icebergs or warning flags that therapists have no idea what they're doing verbally or non-verbally could be perceived and could be in the future charged as a criminal sexual exploitation. Like Nicole, if she were my client, oh, I love your hair.
Or Heath, I noticed you've been working out. You look really fit today.
This can be misconstrued flirting. This can,
well, that was painful. And you're married, and that was painful.
Exactly.
Now we're married, but if you were to say something that sounds harmless about someone's appearance, you are walking into sexual misconduct. You're not to speak about someone's appearance, especially not someone's weight, not just for avoiding sexual misconduct, but, oh, they noticed I lost weight. And maybe they gained that weight. What happened? They're not going to want to come back. They're going to be self-conscious. So I know it sounds silly not to comment on someone's nail polish, but this is how we be impeccable with our communication so that there's no gray area for misperception.
Yes.
I love the statement that has been used so many times to me when I've heard other people talking about ethics and communication and the importance of really presenting appropriately by saying, how does what you're saying relate to the session?
Exactly.
Because you're not going to be massaging their nail polish.
Right.
You're not going to change your protocol because they gained or lost 5 pounds.
Yeah.
You're not going to be massaging their hair more or less because it looks great or doesn't look great.
Right.
All those things are completely ambiguously not related.
Yeah.
So when that's the case, it comes down to, why do you want to say the things that you want to say? And a lot of times it really goes to, gosh, I want to have them feel comfortable, or I want to really make them feel pretty, or I want to make them feel, and it's one of those icebreakers. I had a massage therapist just yesterday send me a message and say, hey, I was really concerned because after the class that we had with you on ethics, I had a client that I hadn't thought about, but at the end of the last session, as I told him, hey, the session's over, I'm going to step out. His response in a teasing manner, this was a young lady and it was a male client, was, oh, just leave the lotion bottle and I'll be out in an hour. And she just quickly went out of the room and shut the door and was like, I don't even know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And so she didn't wait in the hall. She actually waited up by the front desk because she wanted to have another person there when she saw him next. And it just made her feel icky. And she knew that feasibly he was just kidding, but that was so far beyond what made her feel comfortable. And so my response was, so I understand that made you feel uncomfortable. How do you want that to end? Do you want the session, the relationship, the professional relationship to end, period, and never have any more contact with them? Or do you want to address it and say, you know what? This is something you said at the end of the last session. It made me feel uncomfortable because this is not a sexual environment, and I really feel uncomfortable that you sexualized it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that then brings the client's awareness to it. I gave it to her. I said, you know what? You have good, better, and best practices. It's okay to have good practices. It's good to have really better practices. And if you can do best, great, go for it. But a lot of times that's circumstantial. And I hate to say it, we don't always have perfect practices as a massage therapist.
That's true.
But at least let's not do the bad practices.
At least.
Well, and I love that you're spearheading this initiative to peel back the layers of the onion of these ethics and standards, because we need to get transparent. A therapist community, we have to have these conversations about the things that go sideways, the things that this will never happen in my room, this would never happen at my table. No, actually, it happens a lot more than any of us want to admit on both sides of the therapeutic relationship.
Yep.
And I think transparency is safety.
Mm-hmm.
When we do not share, both professionally, I think, and personally, when we don't share, that's when things can, in the absence of information, we tend to fill in oftentimes fear-ridden story. And that's why when we reveal and we get clear and we catch up and we become transparent, that's when people can feel at ease. That's when therapist client are on the same page.
Well, because then they understand where you are, they know what line and boundary you're standing at and behind, and they know where they can meet you, where it just becomes a place where we can meet together and there's safety there.
So I love the concept of transparency. And I had a massage therapist come to me years ago saying, there's a point where you just shouldn't be transparent.
I
and I said, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that full transparency of what your intentions are, full transparency, you should be absolutely straightforward, blunt, because if you're not, the next possibility is someone thinks you're hiding something behind that point.
Exactly.
Whatever it is.
Yes.
And it's how you communicate. It's why you communicate. I guess the best statement of why you communicate, had a client in my office referred by a chiropractor. The chiropractor couldn't get the lower back pain to go away. And so I had seen this client before. I'd seen her whole family, parents and everybody. And so she came in and I said, so how's things going? What's going on with the pain? I noticed you've been going to the chiropractor a couple of times. What really makes this pain hurt the most?
Mm.
And her response was doggy style.
Mm.
And my first thought was, now is it being on all fours, flexed forward? Is it actually the penetration? And I took it in a very clinical fashion, because if you're getting, oh my gosh, she said something, I can't. You're getting into your own emotions and not into the moment, into the purpose. And you can talk about really important things in life. And I do the same thing with my kids. I mean, I have 4 kids, 16 all the way down to 8. And when my kids ask, Dad, what's pot or what's marijuana or what's sex or What are these different things? As an adult, your job is to be mature and be able to talk freely and openly in a safe, professional way. Because if you can't do it, you can't expect them to.
Yeah.
And the next generation won't be able to talk about it. In the treatment room, if you have a client who comes in and is open to tell you things in a professional way, and you shy away from it, that's going to subconsciously say, oh, they're not, that this isn't something to talk about with them. And I don't feel safe about talking that.
Well, and that might go to 5A, if a therapist feels uncomfortable with the level of transparency of the client, it's again on the responsibility of the therapist to refer them out. If you're not feeling safe, even if they're, not sexualizing it and providing a clinical case to help you do your therapeutic work, that goes to 5A, and that would be time to refer out. But I would hope that as seasoned therapists, that we can get clear with our own sexuality in such a way that we can be aware of it. We can communicate in such a way that we're not shying away, that we're not shrinking or wilting lilies. Now I do,
or letting things just go by, just letting the comments just kind of pass us over and kind of be quiet about it, and we end up withholding and we end up withdrawing, and then we have all these weird projections about what just happened or what didn't happen, and they're having the same experience on the table. So how do we prevent that from that ongoing withhold, withdraw, project over and over again by simply just letting these things just go by?
I think the statement of mental fiction is what ends up happening in those moments where you're like, oh no, hold on, what's going on? And your brain thinks so many thoughts a second that you're creating multiple stories of possibility until you get rid of the fiction. Yeah. And so being able to do a clarifying statement, I had a great massage therapist point out a statement that she had learned in a boundaries class. And that was, if you have a client who says something that's inappropriate, doesn't matter what it is, it's inappropriate, it's something that you shouldn't be talking about in the treatment room. As you're doing the massage, stop the massage, bring your hands off and say, I'm sorry, what did you say? Because I don't talk about things other than the massage while I'm doing the massage. And so you stop the massage, and as soon as they're done, then you're okay. And then you go back into the massage. And if they then bring it up again, this is any dog training, human training behavior. This is, you have something you like, I'm going to take it away when you do something that is not appropriate. Then we're going to try it again. And if you can improve, then you're going to get more of the good response. And I thought, how interesting to look at the training of your clients the same way you look at training your child or training your dog. But really, it works. The mental aspect. It's very simple, very small, but it's not even punishment.
No.
It's more of a giving you a reward because we're focusing on the session, because that's what you're supposed to do as the therapist. And it trains the client to know that's what happens in these sessions is we focus on your therapeutic benefit. It creates that limitation and it reduces the exploitation of the relationship.
So being able to come up with your own clarifying statement, with your own kind of power statement, what is that for me? What's going to be the words that I choose that easily flow from my mouth that convey my clarity, my boundaries here?
Yeah, and I recommend all therapists, if you don't have a power statement in your pocket, please write one, create it, put it on somewhere you can see to post it.
Practice
and rehearse it. Say it out loud. You got to role play it, or you'll be like, excuse me, that's personal information, and the ethics and standards of my profession prohibit me from having those kind of conversations. If you're willing to, I see you as a client, and I like having you as a client, and if you're willing to stay within the therapeutic relationship, we can continue the relationship. Do you agree to that? It doesn't have to be verbose. That was a lot of words. But find something you can say in 10 seconds, 15 seconds to be, no,
Yeah.
I love the term practice that, because there's so many times that I've seen massage therapists who get in a situation like, I don't know what to do. Well, yeah, because you haven't thought about the situation, put yourself in the situation, and practice the terms. Now, there are some terms that we do practice in massage therapy. Some of my favorites are right at the beginning of the session, undress to your level of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that actually mean
what does that
after? What does that mean after you've said it a million times? It means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have a first-time client, just saying undress to your level of comfort, they don't know what that means. And so being able to practice that more advanced version of undress to your level of comfort,
Yeah.
as a professional massage therapist, we can work on you no matter what level of dress or undress you're in. If you want to leave on your undergarments, that's totally fine. If you'd like to disrobe completely, we're fine. All of your body's going to be covered unless we're working on that part of the body. Do you have any questions about robing?
Perfect.
Love it.
Done. And
Yes.
and it's just that little bit more that you had to practice a couple of times to really have it flow from your mouth.
Yeah.
Anyone who's ever been on stage knows that you have to read your script, and not just read it so you know the words, but read it so you know the feeling.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you're writing something out saying, okay, this is what I'm going to say if that situation happens, yes, but how would you feel in that situation? How are you going to respond in that situation if someone just said something or just did that thing? Okay, well, you're going to be anxious. Okay, so let's start thinking about anxious things and then read it and see what you can do to calm the whole scenario down. That's where you can really feel empowered to give the client the best experience. Give them the ability to understand their responsibility and own that treatment room and own yourself and be in that moment. Master your state.
I love your what you said about being able to respond. And that's what responsibility is, really. I mean, it's not this onerous, oh my gosh,
burden. I gotta do everything.
Thing, you know, like,
well, and I'd like to see, responsibility rather than reacting. You mentioned in both ways with the accidental potential for exposure, or the therapist who was told the inappropriate comment on the way out of the room. You describe the amygdala response, the freeze. We don't know what to say. And this is exactly why we need to role play and rehearse these, so that we can move from that fear state where we don't have our full neocortex, our fancy new big brain, so that it just is right on the tip of our tongue.
And I love that one of our teachers says, fear is frozen fun. So all you got to do is melt the fear. So we add some breath to what we're up to, or move your body in some way to kind of begin to melt the fear in a way so you get access to all of your faculties again, so that you become able to respond. And that's all it is. It's not this burden. It's rather, well, how can I get my facilities so that I can make a choice here, so I can say something here.
Yeah.
How comes sympathetic to parasympathetic? So important.
Yes.
Yeah. And how can I be, maybe a better term that sounds less onerous is response agility.
Yes.
How can, and responsibility, but response agility, how can I use the full resources at my disposal, my training, my expertise, my present moment awareness, my forward thinking of worst case scenarios and how I might respond to them, is being resourceful, is being response agile. Able. Thank you, agile.
I like both.
Yeah.
I like response agility, because you have to practice to be agile at something.
Yeah.
I think of gymnasts, and there's no way I would be able to get on that saddle horse and do all those amazing things that those gymnasts do unless it's practiced.
Yeah, like some kind of agility course. Yeah, I have to learn how to balance on this beam. Yeah, whatever.
This is a beam that you have to practice.
Yeah.
And if this has stopped, you have to figure out how to get that pumped and going and working right in any situation.
Yeah, we're finding that it's more and more important for teams, groups of therapists who work in teams or at spas, at clinics, to have these kind of conversations ongoing, whether they're monthly or weekly or whatever. Just bringing up the topic can sometimes break kind of the the fear, the edge, the resistance,
the unknown.
Yeah, that prevents us from actually practicing, from actually putting into practice what I'm most scared about.
I love that spas generally have team meetings that they're supposed to have monthly,
Right.
and the subject. I'm always scared to hear when a team is supposed to have their monthly meeting and they haven't had one for 6 to 8 months.
Oh,
And then you go, wait a second, you're there to support each other and help each other, and you're not going to help each other if you're not talking together.
Right. And what's happening behind the doors here? What's really going on for each of us? Where do we have a place so that we can really let go of our feelings, talk about what's actually happening on our hands, on our tables,
and share with our colleagues, especially if you work in a group atmosphere, there might be dozens or hundreds of years of massage therapy experience in one place. And for us to use the creative, collaborative resources of our teammates elevates everybody's practice. There's always, in every group, there's someone who knows something that nobody else knows in that group. And how can we organize ourselves to continually be open to discovery? What can I don't know about you all, but I want to age like a fine wine.
Not like a stinky cheese?
No, I don't want to just like take that popular modern cultural idea that I get old and fall apart. No, I want to be proactive. How can I continue to evolve my craft? How can I work smarter, not harder, not just with my hands, but with my communication?
Yeah, massage is not just something we do. It's also, it can be something, it could be who we are. It could be how we're living, how we're navigating ourselves through the world. How do I bring what I do on the table into everything that I'm up to? And that's what we're trying to figure out. How do we do that? And a big part of why we shifted our name of our business from National Bodywork Seminars to Living Metta meaning loving kindness. How do I live loving kindness? How do I live my arts, my passion, my work?
And do the values I have on the table. There's some core values. Of course, there's always idiosyncratic values among therapists, but at the heart, most of us are compassionate, we're caring, we're in service, we want to support, we want to relieve suffering. Are we doing that when we're driving our car? Are we doing that for ourselves when we're choosing what to eat or when to go to sleep, or when are we staying hydrated? Are we practicing what we preach?
Yeah, are we recognizing our personal limitations?
Are we saying yes? Are we saying yes when we mean no?
How many times we do that?
I would say that's a violation of 5A.
Well, and I love that, because I tell people you're not an ethical worker or an ethical person at home. If you're following your ethics, it's going to really elude all the way through. You're going to be at home striving to be the perfect caregiver, the perfect support. You're going to try and be ethical and supportive. And then at work, you're going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how can I bring transparency into all my relationships? What would that be like? What would that feel like? How would that change what I'm up to? What if I didn't withdraw and withhold from my partner?
Your family would love it. Your pets would love it.
Oh my gosh, it would be like so much aliveness that everyone would be experiencing goosebumps all the time.
There'd probably be a few 5-minute sweaty conversations, but boy, what a relief that comes when you open the floodgates.
Yeah.
So with the having monthly meetings, if someone's doing something obnoxious, and this is one of the things that I talk about with my family, if someone's doing something obnoxious and you bring it up when it's obnoxious the first time, then it can be a discussion. If they've done that obnoxious behavior 1,000 times, it's no longer a discussion, it's a yelling match.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you've got all the emotions for the last however long all piled up into this moment. If you don't, as a spa or as a clinic or a team, go through and talk about ways to improve and things that you do appreciate, things that you didn't appreciate, how things are, then you're going to find yourself in this point where you're like, well, I just can't deal with it. I don't know how to. I don't want to. It's making me feel icky. And then you get into the big levels of trouble.
Yes, that's when we get into the weeds for sure.
I talk about ethical dilemmas and having your gut really go out and tell you things. And when your gut really does that first flip, that's when you know you're in an ethical dilemma. That's when you know that there's something that you should be saying or something you should be doing, no matter what the situation is.
Well, I love it. That's a body response. And if we're all about how do I encourage more of my body intelligence to inform my truth? How do I use my body as a source of truth telling?
And wisdom
and so that
guidance and next steps.
So I'm not missing or letting things go by or waiting for the right moment to say something.
And your triggers happen at the right time for what your experience is.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people who have talked to me about, I was talking to my dad and he said, gosh, you should have done this already. And I got really angry and really mad. And I went, okay, but so why did you get into it? What was the ethical dilemma? What was your understanding? What was your expectation of what he meant by that? Being able to go in and just kind of say, let's talk about why that happened so that you know the trigger, and then go into how do you respond to make sure that there's health and strength and there's healing that can happen in your family relationships or your practice. If your client says something abstract and you don't know what they meant by that, instead of ignoring it and running away from it, asking for clarification.
Yeah.
Because your gut's going, bleh, and when it goes, bleh, you should say, wait a second, I don't understand because I'm feeling uncomfortable about that. Done.
Right.
Move on.
Yeah. Using your body as a cue, like feel a little sweaty when you say that, or feel really weird, or
You just name it. You match it.
Name it.
And this is how Nicole and I define integrity in action, is when your inner experience mirrors your outer expression.
Yeah.
And if we're withholding, if we're biting our tongue, I did, something came up when you mentioned the therapist who's like, well, I don't think you should be transparent about everything. That reminds me of a rule that was in my own family of origin. If you can't say something nice, don't say it at all. You can be, I agree. I don't think being nice is the idea if you're not going to be transparent, but we can be kind.
Mm-hmm.
We can be kind in how we're communicating. We can be direct, and it could be even abrupt, and we can be kind too. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, we don't always have the power to control. Well, we don't have the power to control the emotions, the feelings that arise, but we do have the ability to control how we express that.
But you are responsible for the result of your communication as well. So if you say something and someone misunderstands you, you should be able to say, I think you're responding in a way that I didn't intend. This is what I meant by that statement.
Yeah.
To create clarification.
Yeah, you should be able to gist what you're saying so the other person has a sense of it.
Yes.
Instead of them going, oh, so they can go, oh, okay, I thought you meant something different.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay, now we've got clarification. Now we're on the same page. Now we can really connect with this. That actually goes to the B and talking about recognize the influential position that a massage therapist has in and outside of the treatment room.
Yeah.
Because it's not just in the treatment room, it's even outside and after. And when you're walking down the street or when you're in the grocery store, you're still holding an authority of that person in their mind where they're like, oh, that's my massage therapist. And that expectation then is very important when you get to the second part of that, and not exploit the relationship for personal or other gain.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at that, there's one thing that I have to talk about, and I hate talking about it because I know there are some people who really enjoy this process, but there's a type of business out there called network marketing, and it's a structure where they're usually suggested to talk to their clients about this product, or talk to their family about this product, or about whatever it is. And it's a danger when a massage therapist doesn't create good standards around their professional title. Right. And then they're like, as your massage therapist, I suggest you take this product. Oh, yeah, no. That's outside.
Yeah,
that's exploiting that relationship.
That power differential and the power advantage that the person who's got clothes on versus the naked person lying down. Exactly. It's not just on the table. We want to be mindful of how we are using our influence. Is it for the therapeutic relationship? And if it's not, stop it.
So you talked about that reality to the client is not really what you're presenting, it's what they're perceiving. And there's one real important experience that I connected with because I had a massage therapist who was one of my students in massage school who graduated, and he got sued for sexual misconduct. And in the trial, in the case, the client said, well, I may have been dreaming it, but this is what she experienced. And she went through and talked about him touching her all over in all these different places. Knowing the therapist, he wouldn't have done that in my experience in connecting with him. And it really made me hurt thinking that person's experience was mixed between the dream reality and the conscious reality of what her experience was.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long period of time, I actually after that said, I'm not going to have my clients be able to sleep on the table.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want someone to accidentally slip into that dream state and think that their subconscious reality and their actual conscious reality are mixing. And so I actually would spend a little bit more quiet spa voice responsibilities of, all right, so now we're going to be working on your adductors. Now we're going to be working on your gastrocnemius. And even if they were less in a conscious state, their subconscious mind would still be pulled back to that this is a professional and they're speaking professionally to me. And it would draw it to that professionalism because you have to control the experience that you can. You can't fix everything. You can't fix everyone, but you can do everything you can to make sure that every person's experience is safe and professional.
Exactly.
I love that. It's kind of like sorting the files of what can I control and what can I control, right? Like, and knowing that so that we can kind of align ourselves, organize ourselves in a way so that we can create just that, the safety and security for both therapists and the receiver client.
Yep. All right. So we're out of time. That went by way too quick.
We must have been having a lot of fun because there was an hour.
But before I end, how can people get a hold of you guys and see what classes you've got coming up?
Thanks for asking. Well, you can come to our website, and I'll share that.
We're heathandnicole.com or livingmeta.com, and we have some upcoming classes locally in Arizona. We're getting ready for a big trip to Thailand next year, so if you'd love to have an adventure and Thai massage in Thailand, Chiang Mai particularly, we'll introduce you to our teachers and some of our favorite places to hang out. We'd love for you to join us.
Yeah, we also have several resources on other mediums. So we have a YouTube channel if you want to see some of our hands-on practices. Craniosacral. Thai yoga massage is one of our all-time favorites. We also have conscious communication. I think we are authors of the Savvy Self-Care in ABMP's Massage and Bodywork magazine. And the last article we did was Mastering Appreciations. Perfect for this time of gratitude, Thanksgiving. So there's things like that on our YouTube, Living Meta.
Yeah, a bunch of free techniques, free self-care moves. So we'd love for you to connect with us in different ways and with different resources. And
feel free anytime you want to call or email us. We're available in those ways as well.
That's awesome. I appreciate it. It's so much fun to see people who are loving what they do and finding other people to connect with in that. I've got several people that I hang out with. We talked about David Otto before we started, and he's one of my go-to friends where we both practice with heart, and it's so nice to get together and see how we can help each other. And so thank you for stepping out and putting information out there on YouTube and connecting with the therapist in the world. Do you have classes that are already scheduled, and is that all up on the website?
All up on the website.
Yep.
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 Yeah, with some cranial sacral classes coming up, some table tie. So yeah.
Some movement therapy, and about conscious communication, we're going to be talking about celebrating completions. How can we find opportunities to complete, not just at the end of the year, not just when we're grounding at the end of the session, but how can we live in completion, which is incredibly energizing. So come check us out. And
we had so much fun chatting with you, connecting with you.
Thanks for inviting us.
Really awesome.
Loved it.
Thank you so much. And as I start getting into next year's plans for this type of webinar, I will definitely keep you guys in mind, because we think a lot of the same ways and have a lot of the same excitements. So expect to be asked back again.
The hour has flown by. We hope you've enjoyed this discussion with Ethics Outside the Box. As you've seen, Nathan uses many second-hand stories of ethical situations. If you'd like to share your story, or you have any questions, feel free to contact him and Nathan at educatedtouch.com. If you have just watched this video and would like continuing education for home study, you can go to shop.educatedtouch.com under the home study options with the date or episode number to receive your exam. If you would please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, we will keep you up to date on new videos. If you'd like to attend one of our live courses, you can find upcoming scheduled events at www.educatedtouch.com. Thank you for joining us today.